Hi, Leanne here from Reboot Mindset Coaching, and I'm going to teach you something today that you can actually use straight away in your workplace, at home, and in your own head. And it's going to make everything make so much more sense, and it's going to help you and everyone else drop your weapons because, hey, we've all been involved in a conversation, haven't we? That's gone way differently than you thought, and you sit back and go, whoa, how did we get here? Well, I'm about to teach you not only how we get there, but what to do about it. But first, I want to tell you a very quick story. So one of my daughters sent me a Facebook message the other day. It was just a newsy message, and I was about to go and see a client, so I didn't have a lot of time to write back to her, but I knew that she would have seen that I've seen it, and I didn't want her to think that I was ignoring her, so I sent a thumbs up emoji to her message. When I got back from being with my client, I'd missed several calls from her. And I'm like, oh, hope everything's okay. So I rang her back and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she's like, you sent a thumbs up. And I'm like, and? She goes, you sent a thumbs up. And I'm like, I'm really not following this conversation. I don't quite know what the answer is. Yeah, I sent a thumbs up. She goes, Mum, you don't do that. And I'm like, what? Why? She said, you don't send a thumbs up. A thumbs up is like a whatever eye roll. And I'm like, what? She goes, if you send a thumbs up to someone on a message, it's really, it makes me think, well, I actually thought, what have I done? Mum's upset. She's like, whatever. And I'm thinking, what have I done? What have I said? What did I do wrong? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, I sent a thumbs up as a way of acknowledging you, letting you know that, yeah, I've seen it, all good. She goes, no, that's not what a thumbs up mean. And I'm like, hang on a minute. This is hurting my head. This is hurting my head. And this is a really great example of what I'm about to teach you, why we come to these conclusions, and not only how to stop yourself just creating a shitstorm in your head, but also how to recognize when someone else is doing it so that you can help them stop it. I'm going to draw this for you, and full disclosure, I was going to make a PowerPoint and make it all fancy and everything, but I'm like, nah, that's not what I am. It's all about keeping it real. So you're about to see my handwriting, and I'm using this new tablet thingy, which is it's kind of weird because everything's reversed. So anyway, I shall stop waffling and I will open up my whiteboard so that you can see it. It does take a couple of seconds to load. And while it does, I would like you to think about a situation that maybe you're dealing with at the moment, and it could be a conversation that you need to have. It could be the way that somebody reacted to you about something. It could be as simple as worrying about feeling judged if you go into a room. Doesn't really matter what it is, but I'd love for you to be able to have a relatable example for this. So this little tool, which is going to make a big difference to your world, is called the Ladder of Inference. Now, inference is that basically we see something and we assign, we infer that it means something, and that's where we fall into peril. You can find lots of this stuff on YouTube. You can Google it. You can learn all about it. But I just want to give you a really quick, simplified way of understanding it, because a lot of the videos are in very technical speak. I don't want to do that. I want to bring it down so that it's relatable. So you go, oh my God, I know exactly what you mean. So this is a ladder, and there are different rungs on the ladder. Now, the first step on the ladder is like you're on the ground floor, you're on the ground of the ladder, you haven't stepped up onto the first rung yet. So that represents what we call observable data, which in real speak is everything that's happening. Oh my goodness, look at my writing. Never mind. So that's the first rung. So everything that's happening, let's use the example. Well, an example that I use a lot is that you are having to talk to a team member because maybe their sales sales aren't what they should be. So everything that's happening is that it's the 3rd of the month, it's a Tuesday, you've got a report on your desk, you've got an overview of all the sales. That's everything that's happening. Maybe it's 3:57, maybe your stomach's rumbling because you haven't had lunch. You can see the clouds out in the sky. There's someone sitting behind you. You can hear this. It's literally everything that's happening. It's everything. And then we step up onto the first rung and we go into what we call selected data. Try and make this one a bit neater. Selected data, which means that out of everything, you have honed in on one thing. For our example, let's make it the sales report. You're looking at the sales report numbers, and you can see that the sales report numbers are not what you were expecting. Then we step up onto the next rung, and this next rung is where we assign a meaning to it. So you can see that the sales numbers have gone down. Oh, the sales numbers have gone down. Oh, that's not good. So the meaning that you put on it is that this is not good. The next thing, now this is sort of like a fairly intense example, but you're going to follow my drift. After the meaning, we make an assumption. So here we are, right down from here at the bottom, everything's happened. You've got your sales report, your selected data. You can see the numbers have gone down. The meaning that you apply is that's not good. The assumption is that, oh, we're failing. It's declining. It's bad. Then we make a conclusion. And the conclusion that we might jump to in that situation is people are not doing their jobs. People are not stepping up. Maybe people don't value their role. Maybe they're not pulling their weight. They're just not good at their jobs. And then we carry on up the ladder. And then the next one that we come to is that we form a belief. Now, the belief in this case might be that person needs to go. My salesperson needs to go. Then you take action, and that action could be that you start disciplinary action or you fire someone, and then we go again. So how do we use this? That sounds great, Leanne. Yeah, I can get all of that. I can see how I go up the ladder, but what do we do with that? Here's what you do with that. You understand that between here and here is what we call the loop of doom. It is the loop of doom because when you hone into this selected data and you decide what it means, all of these steps start happening almost like a snowball. It's like you've got tunnel vision, you're going down there, you're making decisions, you are not critically thinking because you are rejecting all of the stuff that actually could be happening, and you are just honing in, you're coming to a conclusion, and you make a decision based on that. So you sack your sales member. What happens if we do this a different way? What happens if we realize that the purpose of the ladder is not so much to plot where we are on it, but to make sure we stay off it? That's what the goal is. When you start finding that you are making meanings about things, you know you're on the ladder. The goal here is to stay off the ladder. So what do we do with it? What happens if when you get to this meaning, and the meaning that you put onto it was that, oh, this isn't good, we're failing, the team is spiraling down, we're not making the money, and then the assumption you make is that people are not doing their jobs. What happens if instead of believing that, you then have a conversation at this point and you get said sales rep into the room and you have a conversation and you are authentic. You don't say something like, hey, the numbers are down, this isn't good, you need to lift your game, tell me what's going on, because you're up the bloody ladder again and you're actually inviting them to go up it with you. They get all defensive and What happens if instead of that, you say this? Hey, I've just been looking at the sales reports. I can see that the numbers are down. And immediately my head went to, oh my goodness, this is bad. Someone's not doing their job. But I thought, that's not helpful. It's not actually helping you, and it's probably not even true. So before I go off and create a big assumption and a shitstorm on the other side of it, I just want to ask you if you can give me some clarity over what happened here so that I can understand, so that we can actually resolve this. You might find that somebody might say something that you haven't even contemplated because you were so busy focusing in on what you thought was right. What happens if they said to you, oh no, that's not right. It's the last 11 days of sales actually haven't been uploaded into the system yet. The data's not been added. And you go, oh, well, that makes sense. And you're off the ladder because now you've got reality, you've got facts, rather than the fiction that you create in your own head, not because you want to, but because it's just what we do. It's our default way. It's just the thoughts that we jump to. So I invite you here to teach this model to your teams, or if you would like me to teach this model to your teams in a much more professional way than my little whiteboard here, please let me know, because this is an absolute game changer, especially when you want your teams to step up and you assume that when you tell them or you share with them what your vision is and your strategy is, you assume that they understand. What meaning are they putting on what you're saying? Is it the meaning that you intend? Or are they assigning a new meaning, something along the lines of, well, so-and-so is full of shit, or they don't care, or that's hopeless. And the next thing you know, you're up the ladder. And you get back to the next planning meeting and it's like, how are we here again? How are we here again? So the trick here is to understand that the minute you assign a meaning to something, you reject every other bit of information that could actually be contributing, because you're honing in on what you think is right. What happens if it's not? Now, this is not for the purpose of proving you wrong or proving anyone wrong. It's actually for the purpose of understanding how we think the way that we think, and giving people an opportunity without judgment to give you more information, Let's say very quickly that you have got someone that comes into work late every day and you're actually putting a meaning on it, thinking, well, if this is not okay. The assumption is that you think that they don't care about their job. The conclusion is that you need to have a talk with them and you need to read them the riot act, because, you know, they're being paid from 8:30, and if they're turning up at 5 to 9 every day, it's not good enough, because the belief is that you need to tackle this because they're in the wrong. What happens if you don't do that, but you actually call them into your office and say, hey, I was nearly going to jump to conclusions over this, but I chose not to. I wanted to ask you instead. I've noticed that you come into work late every day. Rather than me jump and get all judgy, I just want to know what's going on there so that I understand. What happens if they say to you, my dad is really, really unwell, and I actually can't afford the support that he needs. And so every morning on the way to work, I call by to make sure he's had his medication, but he has his medication at 8:30 on the dot, which means that by the time I've given it to him, then I'm a bit late to work. Imagine if you had gone off your nut and then you hear something like that. So then you actually can come back here and go, so what can we do so that you work your full hours? Would it be helpful if we started you at 9 and then made you just extend it on for half an hour? And they're like, oh, wow, that would be amazing. Next thing you know, they're feeling valued. They go away, tell all their friends about just how incredible you are as a boss. You've got CVs coming in. People want to work for you, all because you didn't lose your shit over something that you made an assumption about. The ladder of inference. This is really, really, really important. It's really important. And we do it all of the time. We are jumping to conclusions all the time, and they are wrong. A lot of them are wrong and they are not helping you. They are not serving you. And in fact, they are keeping you stuck in these negative thought patterns that are holding you back from joy, connection, collaboration, and just feeling good about yourself. You see someone looking at you at the supermarket, you go up the ladder and think they're judging me. People are so judgmental. People are shits. I don't want to do this. There's something wrong with me. I go buy ice cream. I go home and just fuck the world. What happens if you get off the ladder and you realize that maybe something that you haven't considered is that they're not looking at you, they're looking through you because there's something on their shopping list and they've forgotten what it is. And they're trying to work that out. What if it's got nothing to do with you? So until I get a bit passionate about this. So my invitation to you is get familiar with this model. If you would like to nut it out even more, I'm very happy to spend some time with you and try it on in a way that makes perfect sense for you. But my invitation for you is not so much to understand the ladder, but to stay off it. When you realize that you're on the ladder, get off it. What is another way of looking at this? Not for the purposes of proving you wrong, but for the purposes of proving no one wrong so that we can just get on with what we're doing and drop our weapons and start just being nice to each other. I'm Leanne from Reboot Mindset Coaching. And if you would like to know more about this model, if you would like me to teach this model to your teams, or even if you want to have a chat online or over coffee about how we could pull this apart in your life or in your workplace, I would love that. I love talking about this sort of stuff. Please reach out to me. You can find me via my website, which is rebootyourlife.com.au. Rebootyourlife.com.au, or you can give me a call on 1300 reboot. I would love to talk to you about this because 99% of the shit that you're telling yourself is not real. 99% of the people that you work with are reacting to something that is not real, but they don't know. You haven't known before. You don't know what you don't know, and you cannot change what you don't know. You cannot see what you cannot see. And I would love to help you see it, because I tell you what, your workplace is going to suddenly feel like everyone's taken a laxative and lightened up. It's going to be so much easier, so much easier. And who would have thought that just by staying off a ladder, your workplace can turn around? Would love to talk to you, rebootyourlife.com.au. I hope you got something out of this. I'd love to know if you did and what your takeaway was and how you're going to use it.